Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are on this lovely planet.
Unless you're complaining, then it's wherever you are on the planet.
Yes.
Today's episode is about complain brain.
Yes, it is.
Because we all have one.
Yes, we do.
It's a gear. You know, when you're out of gear, you kind of can fall into complain brain.
Right.
It's a
Neutral creates complain brain. When you're fully engaged in your life, complaints are less. When you're disengaged, complaints are more. Let's talk about listening.
Okay.
Because you listen to your thoughts. And you listen to your thoughts as though those thoughts are you.
Mm.
And most of your thoughts start with the word I.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear I like, I don't like, I want.
Oh, I missed that.
I missed that. Oh my, that was good. That was sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
That's your mind. That's your
that's where the system. Complaints rest.
That's what they resonate. They start there. There's an originate.
Mm-hmm.
The originator of your complaints is your thoughts. And actually, our approach is based in listening. When you truly listen, you're not passing the information that's coming in through what you already know, but you're suspending your own internal judgment system to hear what another person is saying. And that's not normal. We've all been raised in cultures that are based in change and getting somewhere. And it's very rare that we discover how to be where we are. And so that's what listening will produce. It will bring you into the current moment of your life if you truly listen. If you agree or disagree with what's being said, you're not listening, you're agreeing or disagreeing.
Which means in a nanosecond, you're comparing what's being said to the data of information you already have stored, to compare it to see if you agree or disagree. Listening is simply hearing what someone has to say from his or her perspective for the purpose of hearing what they have to say from their perspective. It's
right.
Pretty simple, and there's not a lot of work involved. But our minds tend to be rather tricky. They want to work a lot.
And they think they know.
In case we haven't mentioned it yet, we do finish each other's sentences.
And we're not going anywhere. We're going to do our best to follow the moment wherever it takes us. And we have a caller. So,
but before we take I just have one other thing. It just ran through my mind. Do you remember back in the 80s when we were living upstate New York in Woodstock, and we had our very first computers, and you needed screensavers?
Right.
We got one that I thought was pretty tricky at the time. I don't recall whatever else. Maybe it was fish or something, but all of a sudden what would come through on the screen are flying toasters.
Right.
But those flying toasters would come through if we weren't engaged in actually being there at the computer. If there was idle for too long, the toasters would come flying by.
Right.
And I really see that with complaints, that when have you ever heard that the idle mind is the devil's playground?
I have heard that.
It is a complete machine. Yeah, let's take our first guest, shall we?
Hey, okay. Francisca.
We have Francisca, who's our first guest. Hi.
Hello, this is Francisca from Hamburg calling.
Hamburg, Germany, right?
Yes. You know, there's a Hamburg in Pennsylvania, the next state from us.
No, it's Hamburg, Germany this time.
Okay.
Yeah, every time we go through there, we think of all our friends in Hamburg, Germany. Maybe one of these days we'll take a picture under with the sign saying, hey, we're in Hamburg.
That would be great. We do have a California here, so I could take a picture from the little town, California.
Excellent.
What can we do for you, dear?
I have a question in my mind about complaining.
Yes.
I quit working 1 year ago, and I tried to start again before COVID started, and now I can't work. And then I got into network marketing this summer. A friend of mine just said, come on, try this, because it's the way you could work, because my son isn't going to school and I have to work at home.
Yes.
And I was fully engaged and I was really into it and I liked it. And then my brain started, oh, I can't do this. I have to watch my son. I don't get enough sleep. And I was complaining and I was absolutely stopped in my motivation.
Well, you may have the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse here.
All right.
I say that if you look, you'll see that there is a mechanism in your life where you start things and then don't want to continue with them.
You're so right.
And then you find reasons and justifications for not, because you've had your son for quite a while.
Yes, I know.
It hasn't always been the reason why although you use him as the reason why you stop doing things you say you want to do.
That's right. Before that, I had other reasons, yes.
Yes.
But what's really neat is if you can see you have a built-in part of your internal culture that goes for a period, then disengages. You lose your sense of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Post the disengagement. Most of us think, oh, I lost my enthusiasm. So
because
rather than recognizing the disconnect that comes prior to the because.
Right.
And if you
and you look for a reason to blame your disconnect on. So it's not that you have to watch your son. Now, of course you have to watch your son,
yes,
but that's not the reason you lost interest in this telemarketing scheme.
Yeah.
You lost interest in it for maybe no reason. Maybe you just lost interest in it.
And what if that is standard operating procedure? At X amount of time comes the place where you either need to up your energy or you'll naturally fall away from it altogether and find a reason for why you fall away from it.
Yes, I think it's the reason I have to follow up in general to make more energy in it. To give more energy in it.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I noticed that your eyes went up and to the right.
Because whilst our listeners can't see you, we are doing this via Zoom, so we can see you.
And so when your eyes go up, you're looking at a script, something you've told yourself before as to the reason why you do what you do.
Right, I was in my head.
Yeah. But that's okay. See, there's nothing wrong with being in your head. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with anything, Francesca. It is possible that you're just acting out a script that has repeated itself over and over. And if you look, you'll see that you've got situations like this before, and you may have given them different reasons why, but you're a good starter.
Yes, I'm a sprinter.
That's
just
right.
Run.
You're a good starter, and then you lose interest over time. In all things, there's a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
So some people are really good starters, some people are really good in the middle, and some people are good at finishing. But a lot of people start, and then they lose interest for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't pick on yourself for that. I'd look at it this way. You're doing exactly what you want to do. And I think you prefer to spend more time with your son than you do telemarketing. And how I know that is that's what you did.
All right.
Like that, became more compelling. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy your son.
I want to talk about sleep for a minute.
Yes.
I know that when particularly people have young children, they often have broken sleep. Shya and I, as you know, have a young kitten. She's not quite so young. She's moving on toward yes, she's actually nosing my calf at the moment. But her sleep cycle is such that she likes to be up around 3 a.m.
And she likes us to join her.
Yeah, and
she's climbing up the back of Ariel's chair.
She really, this morning I got up to use the bathroom around 1. I thought, oh gosh, I hope I didn't wake her up, which I did. And she came over and she was purring and hanging out. But there comes a point where hanging out becomes it's time to play or feed me. And her thing is she'll just tends to walk right up my body. And if she doesn't sit on my head, she, like this morning, the last few days, she's been tugging on my earlobe with her teeth. I have notoriously been a great sleeper. I go to bed at night and sleep through.
Yeah, it's really tough because when I'm awake, she's definitely gone.
Although for the last 4 or 5 months, this has not been the case.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a distinct difference to when I get up to feed her in the morning, then shut her. We feed her and put her in her little quiet room until we're ready to get up. Shya and I have been treating her nighttime visits as if they're our idea. Because otherwise, we ruin our day before we start.
You see, whether you like it or not, your life shows up in each moment exactly as it does. And you can complain about it and say, oh, well, it is what it is, or you can own that this is your experience of living in this moment. You might as well enjoy it.
Yes, that would be a great idea. I really like that.
It doesn't fit your preferences, so you disagree with what's going on, and then you become the victim of the circumstances of your life rather than the author of the movie called Your Life.
Yeah.
Or the book called Your Life.
Yes.
Or the podcast called Your Life.
The modern way of movie.
Yeah, right. The modern book is a podcast. You know, here's the thing, Francisca, that most people fall prey to, and that is they're hard on themselves for how they're being. So now you're suddenly lackluster. You wake up one day and you just are not excited about doing anything, including telemarketing. And you've associated being a successful in that so far by having a degree of enthusiasm. And so it's so easy from that state of being upset to make decisions about what you're going to do in the future, or not to go for it anyway. There is a school of acting and sometimes a school of life called the fake it till you make it school. Yes. Where you wake up, you're feeling a little lackluster, but you go about it as if you are fully enthusiastic, and sometimes you find yourself. And sometimes what's appropriate is to give yourself a break. Say, I'm just not doing anything today. It's really about looking moment to moment, but also about not being hard on yourself for whatever it is that you discover.
Well, you see, here's the thing, my dear. In this moment, you could only be on this call with us. Now, that is reality. That's the truth of everything. And so thinking you should be doing something different is just a thought. The reality is your circumstances are showing up exactly as they are and exactly as they're not. And you have no control over that.
Yes, and that's yes. There's
so
no
you might as well enjoy it.
Yes, yes, I will. Yes.
You know, you can't, it shows up the way it does. And, you know, like we had our television on earlier and we muted it. And the mute is only good for so long. And it came on a moment ago, and Ariel rushed downstairs to turn it off. But it came on because that's just the way it shows up. Is it worth getting upset over? Not at all.
It's a machine.
Thank you.
It has a design function. And guess what? It was perfect because it demonstrated how that complaining brain works. Well, you know what? I just went ahead and clicked it off and I didn't get upset with it.
Right.
Oh, great. Oh, it just is amazingly free in my mind now.
That's very good.
Thank you so much for zooming in to be with us today.
You zoomed in and we zoomed out to you.
Thank you. It is amazing how it changed my view of life.
Thank you, Francisca.
Lovely speaking to you.
It was really nice. Thank you so much.
You're very,
very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is Transformation Made Easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hi, here's Renate from Biesrach, Switzerland. Transformation gave me the opportunity to really see when I need a break and then actually take one, and it feels so good.
If you would like to experience an expanded sense of well-being, join us. Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shya's lively interactive global video seminars. Participate in any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have a couple of wonderful global video seminars coming up that are day long and a weekend. The Freedom to Breathe is October 16th. It's a Friday. And then directly following that, we have Fun
as the access way to enlightenment
on Saturday and Sunday.
I was just thinking, the Freedom to Breathe was the first course that Ariel ever led.
By myself.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time she led it, we were living in Woodstock, New York.
Up with those toasters.
Flying toasters, right? And the day came and I said, well, have a nice time. I'm not going.
And what was really fun about that for me was, of course, I was a little nervous to do it on my own. But when I stepped into fully owning the seminar, and of course, I was trained in doing things with a breathing technique, I found myself saying things, articulating things that I would normally have that slight gap and sit back and wait for you to step up and say. Mm-hmm. And I realized I wasn't parroting what I'd heard Shya say. As I was expressing myself, I realized my reality, my truth, that transformation is mine. This is my lifestyle. So for those of you who come to our 2-hour global video seminars, like on Monday evenings, the occasional Tuesday evening, the Saturdays, or whether you come to the weekends, it's fun to invite your friends to articulate what's happening for you, because you'll discover it's yours. Transformation is a communicable ease. We have a caller.
And the second seminar,
I did say fun is the accessory to enlightenment.
and we're not saying any more about that.
Well,
it's just going to be fun.
It will be fun.
And you'll find out you're enlightened.
Why not?
Why not?
It's
Okay,
like discovering that the thorn bushes have roses. As
as opposed to rose bushes have thorns.
And we're not talking about positive thinking. We're talking about when you get here, your life, it turns out all on its own. In fact, it's already turned out. Sometimes we just miss it because we have complaint brain.
Yes.
All right, let's take our guest.
Hi, Uta.
Hello, it's so nice to hear you.
Nice to hear your voice.
Yes, I'm calling from Hamburg, Germany, like your first caller, Franziska.
Hey, that's so fun.
Yes, I think it's fun too.
You know what's also fun? I didn't mention that both of those courses are bilingual, German and English. So we'll be speaking English. We're simul-translated. And that's really a lovely experience.
Yeah, that is so great. And I followed your conversation with Franziska, and I'm wondering if you already answered my question I had.
Well, you got to ask us the question to find out whether we answered it.
Yeah, so I have my difficulties with the situation during COVID here in Germany. We have some rules we have to follow, and I follow them voluntarily because I'm in risk and healthy risk. So I like to take the distance to the people. I'm wearing a mask when I go outside, and I meet people who do not respect that. And when I try to find my distance, they are talking bad to me. And after weeks, I feel bad myself. I feel not just the physical, but the real social distance. And I recognize that I'm complaining about that. That I'm really,
I think you have it in reverse.
Pardon?
I'm positive you have it in reverse.
Okay.
Here's what I've noticed. I also am very disciplined about wearing a mask and social distancing. And there are people who are not. And that's their reality. That's their culture. So I'm walking down the street, my culture meets their culture. So even your starting way you framed it, you said they don't respect that. No, they don't disrespect it. They're just a walking culture that's different than yours. So one of the things that I've been really managing in myself, Uta, is my judgmental nature about people who don't do things the way I think they should. And there are examples of it every single day.
And everywhere.
And it's interesting that when you say you try to, create the distance, or that people talk back to you all the time. Since March, I believe I've had one person talk back to me, one. And it wasn't even to me. There was a group of people, and my friend and I were walking. We were social distancing. We had our masks, but when we saw them coming, we put on our mask, and they said, "Oh, look at them. They're being careful, or they're being respectful." But it was said sarcastically. But I guarantee you that I didn't just put on my mask that day.
I have something to talk about.
I had a little bit of attitude.
Right. I got something to talk about.
Tell us.
Well, how you think your judgments, whether you say them out loud or in your thoughts, are palpable. Palpable means they can be felt. So if you have a negative thought about somebody because they're not wearing a mask, they sense that negative thought. Many, many years ago, Ariel and I were in San Francisco, and it was very late at night, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And we were on Lombard Street, which runs parallel to the San Francisco Bay as you go over the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. And we stopped to get gasoline. And we saw a man walking down the street, and he was clearly disturbed, as in had some kind of psychological disorder. And
and he was walking away from us.
And he was walking away from us. And then we started talking about him to each other. He was at least 100 yards away or more.
So he was unaware our car was there. He couldn't hear anything we said.
But when we said something, he immediately turned around in an instant and looked in our direction.
And so we diverted our attention to other things, and then he just turned around and kept going.
But we realized in that moment that your thoughts are feelable by others regardless of the distance.
Yeah.
And so my thing for you is, if you notice you judge these people for being the way they are, they respond negatively because nobody likes to be judged.
This is something to think about. I thought I would judge them because I'm fine with them not wearing a mask. I thought I'm not.
That's an untruth you're telling yourself.
No, because
you laughed early. You have that look of recognition on your face. You're not okay. I'm not okay with people not wearing a mask near me. I think it's very
stupid.
Yeah, I think
inconsiderate.
It's inconsiderate. I think
dangerous.
It puts people at risk. We keep hearing things. If everybody or 95% of the people wore a mask, we could kick this pandemic here in this country. Within a month, it would go down to virtually nothing. I have all these opinions about it, but I can step out of that complain brain and be where I am. But I'm not trying to tell myself I don't have an issue with it, because I do. And even when you were talking about you are a person at risk, you have at risk
a health
risk, whether it's asthma. I have asthma. Shya has other.
I have old age.
That's a high risk, I would say.
So we are in a higher risk category, age-wise, health-wise. I mean, as healthy as we are, we certainly don't want to trigger any of those things. But along with that can also come a fear factor that does not have to do with the facts, which could be that you have health ways of being that make you more susceptible should you get ill. There's an overlay of fear.
Yeah, I can feel this fear more than my judgment. I mean, for sure, there's also a bit of judgment inside of me, but here in Germany, on the streets, you don't have to wear the masks. So
yeah, that's right.
I do not judge people who do not wear the mask on the streets. If they do not wear it in the supermarket or in the train, yeah, I do judge them. I feel that very, very clearly.
Yeah.
But I can feel my fear, and I don't know how to not make them feel my fear.
Well, it isn't that you feel your fear. You see, you don't want to feel fear. Fear is not one of your happy feelings.
No, of course not.
Well, let's talk about those 3 principles of instantaneous transformation, because you're not afraid because of COVID. COVID is initiating the fear that you have inside you. And what you resist feeling fearful. You don't want to be fearful. You don't want to give off a fear vibe. You don't want to feel it. What you resist persists. You carry it with you everywhere. Second principle, you can only be fearful if you are. But third is, if you allow yourself to experience it, feel it without judging it, it completes itself.
Oh, that's great.
And so in a certain respect, this is an incredible time.
Because it allows you to complete things like fear, which live in you anyway. You see, your fear is not caused by the event that could happen. Your fear lives in you as fear, and then you look outside yourself and find something dangerous to blame it on.
It reminds me a little bit of what Francisca was talking about. In March, in April, when there were so many unknowns, and we were all doing our best to stay safe and healthy and not infect each other and not get sick. For myself, there was a level of fear or concern that drove me when we would go into supermarkets. We would be fast. We were really attentive. The fear, and I wasn't judging that. So that has really released itself. So now I'm like in the new stage of telemarketing where I get to motivate being attentive to distance and masks and safety and hand washing, not driven by fear, but because it's appropriate. So that bled away, and now there's a new possibility. And particularly here, Uta, because in the United States, the culture here at large is the home of the free and the brave, so don't tell me what to do. And by the way, if I know you and I like you, therefore you must be safe. So when I come near you, I want to hug you, or at very least invite you into my home and give you a cup of coffee or whatever and let you sit around without a mask. And that's the challenge, how to continue to be appropriate without complaining about the circumstances, because here we are.
Yeah, and complaining about the circumstances never changes the circumstances. All it does is make your life more miserable.
Well, thank you so much. It was so good to look at the principle and to not judge, and to not judge myself to feel that fear. That is, yeah. Was good.
Next thing. Don't judge yourself, but don't judge others either, because they can't help but being the way they are too.
Yeah, that's true.
See, and they feel your judgments, and that's when they are not nice to you.
It's a challenging time now, because usually if you get upset, you have a whole host of people around you who aren't. But given the conditions in the world, you have a higher density of people who are unsettled or unsure, or their life situation has changed. So it's almost like we're in a video game, but we've gone up to a higher level where there are bigger pitfalls.
Right, bigger pitfalls.
Yeah, which is not to minimize anybody's health issues. Just
right.
That analogy only goes so far.
Yes.
So glad you zoomed in with us today.
Thank you that I could be here. That was a great pleasure for me too. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. So
next week's episode
is Front Row Seat.
You deserve a front row seat in your life, wherever you are.
That's right.
So come on back.
And don't miss being here.
Mm-hmm.